Most people think that making positive changes in their lives and businesses is difficult, but it's easier than you think. Dr. Stephanie Aldrich created the Habit Formula book, and she wants you to have a free copy of it. In the Habit Formula, you will learn what habits are, where habits come from, and how to form new ones. Habits rule everything in your life, whether you realize it or not. Get your free copy of the Habit Formula today. Go to thehabitformulabook.com for more information.
Hey everybody, you know what time it is. It's lunchtime with the Habit Master. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Aldrich, and I help people change their bad habits. Today is Famous Fridays, and on Fridays we look at famous people that have made an impact on this earth at some point throughout history, and maybe we can learn the habits that they lived by so that maybe we can improve our lives, right? Today is the final day of the whole month of September. Every Friday in September, we have kicked off every Friday with someone that has thought out of the box, someone that has contributed humongous ideas and concepts and products and services to humanity, right? And I can't quit September and not talk about Albert Einstein. And we're going to talk about 5 habits that he lived by that just ingrained his very essence of him on this earth. And even though I myself, I hate physics. I just don't understand all the mathematical ramifications, how to manipulate all of the equations and all that. That is not my forte. But I totally respect what this man did and the ideas and how he lived by those ideas and how he explored those ideas. And the inspiration that he gives me on a daily basis is just tremendous. And I want to share that with you today. And of course, I've got my Einstein get up today, a little mustache going on, little hair going on. That's why I wore this, because to me, he is just one of the most important people to study and to kind of live by his philosophies of life. If you can learn these 5 things that we're going to talk about today in today's show, the inspiration that'll come out of it is just going to be humongous. So anyway, before I forget, learn how to change your habits. It's all here in black and white, 121 pages. That's it. And you don't even have to read it. Go to thehabitformulabook.com. Do all of the exercises at the end of each chapter. You can get it for free. Go to thehabitformulabook.com and learn how to implement these types of habits and live the way you want to live. Okay? So, I'm going to give you just a little bit of history on Albert Einstein. And once you kind of understand a little bit of the history of his life, of how he lived, you're going to be able to take these 5 habits that we're going to talk about in a few minutes and just totally blow them out of the water and make them yours and ingrain them in your essence, in your habitual routines that you do every single day. Okay? So he lived between 1879 and 1955. He was born in Germany. His father and uncle were engineers, and they founded a company that manufactured electrical equipment that was on DC or direct current. Okay? His dad wanted Albert to be an engineer, but Albert thought that engineering was boring and that the way they taught engineering was completely rote. It was just all memorized. There was no creativity in any of the engineering equations and the style of engineering at the time, and he was completely bored with it, and he was like, forget it. He was more curious about abstract mathematics and physics concepts. okay? That guy was just out there, right? I mean, think of all of the crazy thoughts that were going through this man's head back in, the turn of the century there. It's just crazy. By the age of 12, he convinced himself that nature could be understood as a mathematical structure. By the age of 12, okay? He wasn't playing video games with his buds. He wasn't, going out and playing baseball and, doing whatever they were doing back in, the early 1900s. By the age of 12, he was thinking about how he could prove that the universe was basically a simple mathematical structure. I mean, who thinks of that? What kind of genius and abstract thinking goes into that kind of concept, right? At age 13, he was introduced to the philosopher Immanuel Kant. Now, Kant, at the time, he was thought that the human understanding is the source of the general laws of nature that we experience. This also includes the subjects of space and time. Space and time don't necessarily exist only in the human condition, right? We're here a certain amount of time because that's how our body, it lives, it dies, it goes through different cycles, right? The earth is still going to be here. It's been here for, billions of years. It will continue to be here billions of years until the sun decides not to warm it anymore, and then the earth will die as we know it. But when is that going to be? Definitely not during my lifetime. Do I have 60 years left? I'm hoping. So I'm halfway there. My existence here on earth is pretty small. But space and time are concepts that human beings live by, so that we can kind of understand the environment and how we fit into the environment around us. And Kant, his philosophy of space and time really made a dent on young Albert Einstein. And that's kind of where he started thinking about how space and time related to different structures of the universe, okay, and how we understood them as human beings, okay? And this kind of helped him lay the foundation for all of his theories and ideas about space, about electrons and mass and all of that stuff that we know from his lectures and writings from today. So after graduating, he worked at the patent office, where he continued his work in motion and relativity, which he later became famous for. So this is his famous law of relativity theory, that energy equals mass times light squared, okay? And basically it's how space and time can be warped by the gravity of large masses. So he was thinking about how, light and gravity, he was studying gravitational pull, free-falling objects, and how the law of relativity works into that. And it's a lot of stuff that I even don't understand, but you have to think about the law of relativity. And I'm going to read this to you. So in my book, the 7 Laws booklet right here, the second law is the law of relativity. Now think of this in generic terms, where Albert was really focusing the law of relativity on planetary structures, on the sun, gravitational forces, and the light that the sun emits, that kind of thing, okay? So he was very specific in how he used the law of relativity, but for us in, normal existence, where we're not that, brilliant of physicists, right? We can totally use this law of relativity in our own space. The law of relativity is our perception, right? We talked about space and time earlier, about how that is just how we ourselves perceive certain things that happen, certain things that are, okay, in our environment, as far as space and time, right? This is our opinion about something. So something is not good or bad, hot or cold. You only compare that by using something else. So I say a statement. I am a tall person. Now, I'm only 5'4". That's not tall compared to someone that's 7 foot tall, right? I am not tall compared to a skyscraper, right? I am not tall, or I am taller than an ant, okay? So it's all relative. You have to have something to compare it to make a statement of comparison. So if it's hot or cold, you have to have something cold if you are going to say that something is hotter than that. You have to have some kind of perceptive comparison for you to make that statement, okay? And that's the law of relativity. A runner may have his fastest time ever at a 7-minute mile, but when he is compared to a professional runner who runs closer to 4 minutes or under, he's considered slow, right? It's all about comparison. Our goal-setting scenario: nothing you can think of accomplishing is ever too big. It's your perception of it that will either guide you to achieving it or keep you from it. If you constantly compare yourself to someone else in a negative way, well, she's skinnier than I am, I could never look that way. Or he's such a great public speaker, I could never be as good as him. Or I come from a poor part of town, I could never be wealthy. These thoughts will ultimately control your attitudes and actions that achieve your results. So basically, stop comparing yourself negatively. Turn it around and say, I can, I am, I'm good enough, I can do this, okay? Sometimes you have to do certain steps. You have to go through certain obstacles on your way to that success. But don't compare yourself to someone else because your circumstances are completely different. And that's where we can use the law of relativity in our own lives. He compared it to mass, time, light structures, but you can use the law of relativity in your own life. Stop using negativity and comparing yourself to someone else. You are a unique human being, a spiritual being that can do anything. You just have to set your mind to it and set yourself up to taking certain actions to achieve what you want. And that's where the law of relativity can be used in our realm, in our neck of the woods. Okay? By 1911, his theory of general relativity stated that light from another star could be bent by the sun's gravity. 1919, Sir Arthur Eddington found that Albert's theory to be true during the solar eclipse because they measured the light waves that came through. For that, he won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1920 for the law of photoelectric effect. They kind of buried the E equals MC squared in that, even though that was really what modern physics has been based on, foundations of black holes and, just all kinds of celestial activities that go on, black stars, giant stars, all this stuff that even Hawkins has, developed over his career of, space exploration and all the mathematics stuff into it. They kind of buried that in that Nobel Peace Prize award, but that's really what it's about. It's the law of relativity. It's our perception of what is going on in our current moment. Our perception of what is going on in the past, our perception of what could go on in the future. It's all about our perception, right? 1933, immigrated to the U.S. because of the Nazis in Germany, and he became a citizen here in the U.S. in 1940. He traveled all over the world supporting peace and equality amongst all humans. So let's get into 5 habits that you can use without doing any kind of math, without doing any kind of physics experiments. These are 5 very practical habits that Albert Einstein lived and died by, that you and I can implement into our lives and just live the life that we want and deserve. Number 1, he lived by his convictions. He was Jewish. He supported a lot of Jewish organizations, even, in Germany during the time of, Hitler's uprising. He also believed in equality. He supported, all kinds of organizations that helped with, getting rid of, segregation and prejudice and all of that all throughout the world. He traveled all over the world to many different countries and also different universities. He taught all over the world. And his idea of peace and, becoming one with everyone, he knew that everyone was the same. We all experience the same things in life. We want to have families. We want to, have peace. We want to be safe. We want to live our lives and be happy. And he lived by that. He loved food and, exploring music. He loved music, and he always said that, I read that he, in one of his papers, he quoted that if he wasn't into mathematics and physics, he would have been a musician because he loved different types of music. He lived to his fullest, and that was something that, if we believe something, live by it. If you believe that you have something to give to the world, give to the world. Live by it. Live and die by what you think your special talents are. Number 2, he didn't take conventional wisdom to be law. So again, a lot of these people that we talked about all month, they all have the same thing. He thought out of the box. He thought civil and mechanical engineering was boring because all they did was go, they were robots. A plus B equals C, A plus B equals C. He wanted to just think of why things were. He asked that question a lot. Why is this like this? Why did that do that? And he explored those ideas. And that's something that we can, implement into our lives, is thinking out of the box. Why is something this way? Sometimes you could put a unique spin on it. Maybe something needs to be improved or explained better or used differently. There's so many products and ideas out there that, might be able to be used in a different way that can solve a humongous problem, in the human experience. And that's something that he did. He didn't necessarily think of thoughts on purpose to be like rebellious or anything like that. He did it because he wanted to explore why are things the way they are. And that's something that you and I can learn from. Question authority. That's not saying disobey laws or anything like that. What that means is question why. What can be done differently? How can this be used differently to help solve the problems of the human existence, right? Number 3, he was original. He dressed original. I mean, look at all the pictures of his hair, Woohoo! He never combed it. He was always crazy. He always had a huge mustache. He dressed, funny for the time. And, he just did what he wanted to do. He loved drinking coffee and, hanging out and reading all kinds of interesting papers by different types of people. And that was him. He was very eclectic. But that's a good thing. Be original. Be your true self. Express that true talent that the universe, that God, whatever you believe in, has gifted you. Express it. Be original. Be unique. You don't have to just, be a robot and follow, in line. Stand out from the herd. You don't have to, jump off the cliff if everybody else is. You can say no, and, if your kid wants to, do something different, they don't want to go in the family business, right? Everybody's a lawyer, and, your kid wants to be a musician, or he wants to, be a doctor or something different. embrace that, encourage that. Make sure that he is living in his originality, in his uniqueness. When that happens, when you have the freedom and the, I guess, force inside to live the way you want to live, everyone, I'm trying to think of the right words. Everyone will embrace what you can give and provide society when you're allowed that freedom. So make sure that you express your originality, that you, whatever your essence is, whatever your convictions are, live by them. And that doesn't mean you're going to, force your ideas on someone else, but that means you're just being who you are. And people will accept you for who you are. And if they don't, then you don't need them in your life. And that's just the bottom line. Number 4, he believed in more than him. And what I mean by that, I'm going to say believed in more. Think of the time that he was living, okay? We didn't even land on the moon yet. Like, we weren't even doing that kind of stuff. We weren't, putting space rockets into space and exploring all the planets and all with, the Hubble telescope and, all the different things that we've done, the satellites and, all of the scientific things. We didn't have a space station, at the time. He believed, though, that he was just one small little speck of life in a humongous cosmos. And he believed in that, and he wanted to explore that idea. And that's where his originality came out, his thinking out of the box, and the convictions that he lived by all came from the belief that he was just one small, particle of carbon in a vast cosmos, and he wanted to explore that. And that's pretty cool to think about it that way. When you think that we're all connected, that we're all the same, you're going to live your life a little differently. You're going to, not make little things such a big deal, which also decreases stress, decreases anxiety that you're feeling. You're also going to want to help other people, to give, to, help someone out that is, having an issue or needs some guidance or just, someone to talk to. You're going to want to give your unique and God-given talent to as many people as possible. I know for me, the more, I hit middle age, and it's like, when you're in your 20s, you're a teenager, you think that nothing can happen to you, you take a lot of risks, you explore the world, you want to take it by the kahunas and, make it yours kind of thing. And I think you get in your 30s, you're looking more into building a family and maybe nesting, kind of settling into your career. Hey, I've worked so hard in my 20s, I kind of want to settle down, right? And you're kind of in your nesting phase. As far as what I've experienced in my mid-40s is, in your 40s, you're starting to realize that there is more to life than just you, that you want to give, you want to express what you've learned the last couple of decades and built for in your career, in your family, in your existence, and you want to be able to share that with other people. And I think with him, he kind of had the same thing, that he knew that any issue he's having on earth, any ideas that weren't working out, there was a reason why they weren't working out. And the reason is that they weren't right. Okay? The universe, the spirit, God, whatever you believe in, whatever it is that created everything, the force, the energy that we all are, was telling him that that wasn't correct. And he worked on these theories. He wrote all of these papers. But what he also did was, he had fun in his life. He experienced things because he knew that that's the reason he was on Earth, was to experience things in his human body on Earth and, live up his human experience. And when you do that, hopefully you do that before your midlife crisis, as I always claim I had, you can live a richer life. You can have fun and experience different things. You can travel and have fun with your children and open them up to a world and an existence that's more than just them. Most of us are very self-centered. We want to do, it's me, me, me. What can I have? That's not for me. This is my opinion kind of thing. When you step back and just observe what's going on, you can then relax. You don't have to participate as much in all the crazy chaos that's going on in the world, and you can really dig deep and know what your existence is. What is your special talent? What are your convictions? How can you bring your uniqueness to the surface and share it with everyone? Because when you do that, everyone benefits from it. So the last habit that you can take from Albert Einstein and incorporate into your existence is he explored his natural gifts. He could have went with his father and uncle and, worked on their electric company, their equipment company. But he's like, I don't want to do that. I want to do my own thing. He was so brilliant in mathematics and physics that it just came naturally to him. Think of all of the savants out there, that they're musicians, they're artists, they're very creative people. Even think of authors, that things just come naturally to them. Everyone has a unique, original talent. You don't know what it is unless you're listening to that inner voice inside your head saying, do this, do that. When you start listening to that inner thought, you live by that conviction, those ideas that are already there. It's like, where did they come from, right? It's your soul, it's the universe, it's God, it's spirit talking to you and trying to guide you on the right path. The path that you should be taking, right? He was one of the few people on earth that knew his natural gifts, and he lived to explore them. He loved it. He did everything he could up until the last day of his life when he had an aneurysm and he decided, you know what, I don't want to have surgery. This is the way I want to go. I've given enough to humanity. And then he died the next day. He decided what he did during his life, and he also decided how he was going out. And he was okay with that. And if that's not an awesome thing to think about, to try to live your life by, I don't know what else is. I know for me, I love making these videos for you. I love exploring all of these topics because every single day I learn something new, and then I simplify it, which I think is my talent, my God-given talent is I think that I'm a good teacher. I can teach complex issues, but put them into a simplistic way so that people can just pick it up. That's what the Habit Formula book is all about. I worked with a mentor that had written a New York Times bestseller. She's coached many authors on, how to put their concepts together, how to market their book, all of this stuff. And when we were talking and, trying to create the Habit Formula, she's like, you're very, very good at taking a bunch of ideas and creating something simple from it, something that anybody can use. And I really thought about that afterwards, and this has been about 2 years ago. and I've gone with it. I really think that if things are simple, everybody will do it. And that is my conviction. I always talk in simple terms with my patients. When they come in with maybe a complex situation, I break things down. I always do that. The more simple it is, if they can say, okay, we're going to do step A, step B, step C, and that'll give you your final result, people then can say, oh, we can break things up. It's not such a big, massive problem that will hinder them from actually accomplishing it or going through the obstacle. And I found that even creating these products for you guys, the book, the courses, all of this stuff, it really is simple to do. It's just, is that your path to follow? It might not be. Maybe you're in sales and you find a way to make that sale, to get that company to buy your product or that customer. You just know how to communicate with people. My husband is a born salesman. That guy can sell ice to an Eskimo. I don't know what it is about him. It's his charisma, it's his cockiness. I just don't know what, but people are attracted to him and they trust him, and they trust that what he says, he knows, he lives by, he lives by his convictions, he lives by his beliefs, and they go along with it. What can you do in your life that you can exploit your natural gifts, you can live by those convictions, you can explore the ideas that Spirit or God or the universe, whatever you believe in, is putting in your head, that little voice that's talking to you and saying, hey, go do this, go do that. What about this? What about this example? What about this idea? He explored those things and wrote how many pages? He published 300 scientific papers, and I've done 3. And I'll tell you, it takes a while to do a scientific paper, okay? And then he published another 150 and 30,000 unique documents that they just released from the different universities where he worked from. What can you do that's unique? Your God-given talent, your uniqueness, your ideas, your special way of being. How can you express that and start bringing it to the table and showing people that you matter, that yes, you are just a little speck of dust in the universe, but that you're an important speck of dust and that you can make a difference. So I hope that all of these things today gives you guys ideas of how to live your life. Remember the law of relativity, and that everything is your perception, my perception, someone else's perception in comparison to something else. That's all it is. It is what it is, only in comparison to something else. So let's go through, again, the 5 habits that you and I can use starting today that Albert Einstein lived and died by. Number 1, convictions. He was a Jewish man that loved music, loved to travel, and wanted to explore why things happened in the cosmos. And he did that. He lived and died by his ideas and explored everything that came into his head and lived the way he wanted to live. He wasn't an engineer because his dad told him to. He was a mathematician, and a physics giant, okay? Number 2, he thought out of the box. He always asked the question, why? Why is this the law of whatever? Let's explore it. How can I use things differently? And that's something that you can too. Does your company have a product or service that, maybe can be used in a different way? Or maybe you can, expand upon it. Maybe you can think of something different. Number 3, be original. Everyone is unique. You have unique perspectives on things. You have a unique way of, expressing yourself. You can dress the way you want, but everyone has unique talents. Bring them to the table and exploit them. We need you as humanity. We need your uniqueness because you never know where it's going to lead. Products or services that could help humanity as a whole. You just don't know. Number 4, believed in more. He knew he was only a little tiny human on Earth in a vast cosmos of planets and stars and suns and black holes and all of that. But what he did was he made the most out of it. He was always working on something, asking questions, doing experiments, thinking of things that he could explore and see if he could find the reason why. Why were they like this? When did it happen? What was it? And he shared that with everyone. And the 5th one is he explored his natural gifts. He wasn't afraid to listen to that inner voice inside of his head and explore the ideas that popped into his brain. Everyone is unique. Everyone has unique abilities and talents. Share them with the world. If you find yourself in a mundane job, you're not making any money, but you are very talented at baking or cooking or art or something like that, start doing that stuff. Start sharing it with the world. When you do that, people are going to see the value of you, your unique abilities, and you'll start making money. Value equals money. That's usually how it goes. So when you bring more of you to the table, everyone benefits.